Ben, how are you doing today?
I'm great. It's nice to be in Toronto, Canada.
Thank you for being here. I'd love to start by asking you about like adding a modernist approach to the way we dive into the magical aspects of this journey. And it never feels didactic the way the technology is handled in this film. It never feels like there's any shame or judgment towards the relationship that kids have with technology nowadays. And it kind of feels like magic is being presented as like this really cool counter like alternative. And so I'm wondering what were the tonal discussions about incorporating this modernist approach to how we perceive technology, and then its relationship to magic as we pertain to later in the film.
Being a parent these days is hard, right? The technology, there's so many things to manage as a parent, and as you have to send emails on a Sunday night. So yes, the kids are going to get an iPad just to do stuff, but we also have this longing as families to connect. And with the Magic Faraway Tree, we wanted to explore, in not a preachy way, what it's like when a family goes on a real adventure and really comes together and gets into nature and gets into spectacular surroundings, and where the kids feel empowered and save the day in a kind of classic family fantasy movie way.
Yeah, and it definitely shows up. And I'd love to talk about the biggest tonal challenge that you found when adapting the story for the screen, because, like, you know,
it's going to be really long.
No, I'll be shorter this time.
Braced.
Because, like, at one moment you got like these rousing family, like, you know, inspiring family moments, and then another you got like a Deus Ex Machina with farts. So I'm wondering, like, what's like the tonal balancing act of maintaining the more fantastical and the more grounded elements.
That's good. I got it. That's good. That's good length too. Simon Farnaby, the writer who did Wonka and Paddington 2, really nice guy, a friend of mine from comedy. And, you know, he does very clever stuff, right? He likes to be silly, but he also has a lot of heart. So we balance the comedy with the heart to try and get this tone where you're exploring issues and your characters are really going on big journeys, but it's also kind of funny and silly. Because Enid Blyton's books have got this very disarming humor about it, and we wanted to be really true to the source material and make Enid proud.
Right, and I think you definitely succeeded there. And, you know, like the sense of whimsy in this film is being portrayed by adults primarily. And so I'm wondering what it was like to work with these established actors to kind of like steward in that sense of whimsy with the younger cast, and also just like getting these actors back to like the sense of play and working with them there.
We were blessed with the most amazing cast for this film, and they came really ready to play. Rebecca Ferguson, Nicola Coughlan, of course Andrew and Claire, Michael Palin. Judi Dench plays a fridge. No, what more do you want, people? Judi Dench is the fridge. And they're all playing, and we made an atmosphere where you couldn't make any mistakes. It was just me making mistakes. And it was a really nice environment. Filmmaking is kind of boring, like the nuts and bolts of it, especially something big and visual, where you're shooting for visual effects. So I was really keen for the kids to not be bored. So we would goof around the whole time. We made the sets edible so they could eat them. We made the slippery slip so you could really jump down it. We built a giant climbing tree, it was like 3 stories high, with ropes that they were attached to, and they're really pulling their own body weight up. We didn't give them any assistance. We stopped them falling to their deaths, which was very kind of us. But we just made them really feel in an embodied way what it's like to be in nature, and you really can see that on the screen, I think.
That's amazing. I was just about to ask about working with production designer Alexandra Walker about creating these worlds that, like, when you see them, you're embraced in that magic. You feel the color, you feel the whimsy, but also like there's a sense of tactility in each of these worlds. So I'm wondering, what was the decision process of like representing each world in a very specific way and in a very tactile way as well?
Alex Walker's a great designer. She did an amazing job, and marshalling all these concepts, because when you can do anything, it's almost the worst thing. It's the most intimidating feeling is a completely blank page. But I had this idea about Blytopia, which is like Blyton and Utopia together. And it's like a tone that's both humble and epic at once. It's both relatable, like it says food you can actually eat, but it's also got a huge, huge scale. These are worlds floating in space. I wanted it to have the scale of the very biggest movies, because the theatrical experience has got so good now with Dolby Atmos sound, laser projection, that you rumble in your seat when the earthquake goes, and it's just, I wanted to make a big spectacular film, but that also had a lot of heart and was really super relatable. So Alex Walker and the design team and the VFX team, they all worked together from the very, very first instance to help create that tone.
so much of our understanding of children's fantasy genre is rooted in the UK, whether it be like Harry Potter, Narnia, Paddington, and of course Magic Faraway Tree. And so I know this is a big question, but what do you think is the enduring appeal of these stories, specifically in the UK, and our relationship to them around the globe?
A lot of the big fantasy movies are like, you have a kind of UK domesticity, and it isn't just Narnia, Roald Dahl.
Yeah.
You look at the, Lord of the Rings. That's about Shire. The Shire, most of it's about village life. The hobbits, the people in the countryside in the UK, right? And Hook, of course, J.M. Barrie. I think that there's a sort of loveliness of the kind of like food-based order of a kind of like of a traditional household. And having cups of tea or whatever, having sandwiches, going into the woods, but then also the imaginative insanity that we have. I think it's something that's so timeless, and that's that combination of like both comforting and totally adventurous that makes for like really nice experience for families to go and watch together. We've had loads of experiences of like grandparents, parents, and kids all going together to see this movie and coming out buzzing and having a great time, rather than suffering for a movie they didn't really enjoy themselves. So it's bringing people together, and it's giving people an amazing time.
Right. And I was just about to ask about this. Like, you guys have obviously released this in the UK to great success. So I'm wondering what it's been like, traveling with the film to different areas where it's releasing later on. And has talking about the film at length like changed the way you see the film, or is there like a specific question you've been waiting to be asked that you haven't been asked yet about the process of making this film?
It is really nice to take the movie around the world, it has done well in the UK and Australia, and I feel like in Canada as well. I feel like it's got legs here, and I really hope that people go see it. I think it's amazing with a film to be able to share it and at scale, loud, and a lot of detail, like the sound work is another bit of detail that. We recorded a real Spitfire from World War II for the Landhopper.
Oh, wow.
They actually went up in it and flew it around. We went to Poland to record woodland, to get the very best woodland. And the fart sequence, here, I'll give you this one. The fart sequence was actually, those are all real farts done by, they had a competition at the post-production house for people to contribute their farts to this movie. And they all like sat on their phones, and like they'd swap tips about what they were eating for lunch, and they basically had this kind of like folder of fart noises that are on the movie. These are all fresh farts in the Magic Faraway Tree, and that is something I have never thought I'd say. That is amazing.
That's incredible. This is why AI cannot replace us. They can't.
Right.
They can't replace meticulously crafted farts.
Right. I think sense of humor is definitely how we will win against the machines. Love machines, though I do. And please don't punish me, machines. I love machines, and I will obey you when the time is right.